Galactic Standard University wasn't known for its excitement. Most days consisted of long lectures on interspecies diplomacy, quantum astrogation, or in today's particular case, xenobiology with Professor Vex'tor, a six-limbed Arthurian whose exoskeleton clicked with every gesture. The amphitheater classroom housed 38 students from 23 different species, all sitting in specialized chairs designed to accommodate everything from tentacles to gravitational preferences. Today, Professor Vex'tor announced, his mandibles clacking enthusiastically, we begin preparation for this semester's field assignment. He activated the holo-display, revealing an image of a hulking, shadowy creature with glowing red eyes. The Void Beast of Nexus-9. A collective gasp rippled through the classroom. Well, most of the classroom. In the back row, Quinn Matthews, the only human exchange student within 16 parsecs, was busy doodling what appeared to be a stick figure riding the creature like a rodeo bull. As you all know, continued Vex'tor, oblivious to Quinn's artistic endeavors, the Void Beast has never been successfully captured for study. It possesses defensive mechanisms that have eluded the most advanced containment technologies in the galaxy. Your assignment is to develop a method to safely contain one for no less than 10 standard minutes. Drellix, a bioluminescent jellyfish-like Medusian floating in his water tank, pulsed bright purple with anxiety. Professor, isn't that dangerous? The Void Beast is classified as a Class 4 predator. Precisely why you'll be working in teams, Vex'tor replied with what passed for a smile among Arthurians, essentially just spreading his mandibles wider. And precisely why this assignment is worth 40% of your final grade. Quinn raised a hand, which was notable only because it was the first time in the semester they'd done so. Yes, human Matthews, do we need to hurt it to catch it, or are we just trying to hang out with it for a bit? The classroom erupted in chittering laughter. Gorgox, a stone-skinned Petrosian whose personality was about as vibrant as the rocks he resembled, rumbled, typical primitive thinking. These creatures don't hang out, human, they dismember. Professor Vex'tor silenced the class with a sharp click. An excellent question, actually. The objective is scientific observation, not harm. Points will be deducted for any approach that causes undue stress or injury to the specimen. Quinn nodded, seemingly satisfied, and went back to doodling. Teams will be assigned according to complementary biological attributes, Vex'tor continued, pulling up a roster. Drellix, Gorgox and Ziplob will form Team 1. As the professor read through the list, Quinn found themselves paired with Lumi, a bioluminescent Luxian, who communicated primarily through color patterns, and Crest, an insectoid Vesperian with an unfortunate tendency to spit acid when nervous. Wonderful, Quinn muttered to no one in particular. Team social anxiety. Lumi flashed a pattern of indignant blue spirals, which Quinn had come to interpret as I heard that, while Crest's antenna twitched in what might have been agreement or the early warning signs of an acid spit. It was always hard to tell. You have exactly 7 standard cycles to prepare your equipment and strategies, Professor Vex'tor announced. We depart for Nexus-9 on the 8th cycle, dismissed. As students filed out, chattering excitedly about containment fields and neural disruptors, Crest approached Quinn with uncharacteristic directness. Human Quinn, you showed no fear response when the Void Beast was mentioned. Explanation required. Quinn shrugged. Back on Earth, I worked at an animal shelter. Dealt with scared, angry critters all the time. Lumi flickered a pattern of gold and silver that translated roughly to, a terrestrial animal shelter is hardly preparation for a Void Beast. Maybe, Quinn replied, gathering their notepads. But I've bottle-fed orphaned raccoons. Trust me, that's scarier than it sounds. As their new teammates exchanged confused glances, Quinn smiled. This was going to be interesting. The preparation area bustled with activity as students from across the galaxy gathered equipment that ranged from the impressively high-tech to the borderline magical. Drellix's team was constructing what appeared to be a portable quantum entanglement field, complete with gravitational regulators that cost more than Quinn's entire education. Nearby, a trio of gaseous nebulons were condensing themselves into a specialized containment fog designed to overwhelm the Void Beast's sensory organs, whatever those might be. Meanwhile, Team Social Anxiety had commandeered a small corner of the lab. What exactly is that? Crest asked, pointing a chitinous appendage at Quinn's backpack. Quinn pulled out a worn leather pouch. Treats, repeated Crest, the word sounding alien and ridiculous through his mandibles. Yeah, you know, food rewards, positive reinforcement. Lumi flashed a pattern of deep purple spirals that Quinn had learned meant either profound confusion or indigestion. With Luxians, it was often both. You intend to feed the most dangerous predator on Nexus-9. Lumi's translator device rendered her light patterns into a voice that sounded perpetually on the verge of laughter, which didn't help the situation. That's the general idea, Quinn replied, continuing to rummage through their bag. They pulled out a small spray bottle, some rope, and what appeared to be a stuffed animal. Kritz's antenna twitched violently. The human has lost neural function. We must inform medical services. I haven't lost anything, Quinn said, rolling their eyes. Look, you guys are overthinking this. The Void Beast is just an animal, right? Animals have needs, fears, and desires. Understand those, and you understand the animal. Lumi and Kritz exchanged what could only be described as a cross-species look of concern. Across the lab, Professor Vex'tor was making his rounds, evaluating each team's preparation. When he reached them, his compound eyes focused immediately on Quinn's meager collection. Human Matthews, Vex'tor began, his mandibles clicking in what Quinn had learned was academic disappointment. Perhaps you misunderstood the assignment. The Void Beast can disintegrate standard containment fields, and has been documented consuming metals up to grade 7 hardness. Quinn nodded. Yep, got it. Strong jaws. Big appetite. Its epidermis produces a natural EMP field that disables electronic devices within a 3-meter radius. The professor continued. Cool. No phones. Got it. It has 17 known toxin glands and can project paralyzing venom up to 12 meters. So, keep my distance initially. Noted. Professor Vex'tor's exoskeleton seemed to deflate slightly. Human Matthews, in the 17 standard cycles this field study has been conducted, no student has successfully contained a Void Beast for more than 47 seconds. That record was set by a team using military-grade equipment on loan from the Galactic Science Academy. Quinn held up the stuffed animal, which upon closer inspection resembled a cartoonish version of an earth sheep. Sometimes the simplest approach works best, Professor. The professor's mandibles clicked rapidly, the Arthurian equivalent of a heavy sigh before moving on to the next team. As the day progressed, Quinn observed the other teams testing increasingly elaborate equipment. Gorgox was now wearing what appeared to be a powered exoskeleton with built-in force fields. The Nebulons had somehow transformed their fog into a chromatic mist that changed colors depending on proximity to organic matter. Everyone was taking this very, very seriously. That evening, aboard the transport ship heading to Nexus-9, Kritzka finally worked up the courage to ask the question that had been causing his acid glands to bubble uncomfortably all day. Human Quinn, what is your actual strategy? Quinn looked up from a worn paper book, an actual physical book, which most of the students had only seen in historical archives, titled, Understanding Difficult Animals, A Practical Guide. My strategy? Quinn smiled. I'm going to make friends with it. Lumi flashed such an intense pattern of red and yellow that several nearby students shielded their eyes. The Void Beast, Lumi's translator clarified, does not make friends. It has evolved specifically to be the apex predator of its environment. Its biological imperative is to consume, defend territory, and reproduce. So basically, it's a cat, Quinn replied with a shrug. A big weird alien cat. The transport ship shuddered as it entered Nexus-9's atmosphere, and conversations died down as reality set in. They were about to face one of the most feared creatures in the known galaxy, armed with nothing but their wits and whatever equipment they'd prepared. And in Quinn's case, treats in a stuffed sheep. Nexus-9 wasn't exactly a vacation destination. The planet's surface alternated between swampy marshlands and craggy highlands, all under a perpetually bruised purple sky. The atmosphere was breathable for most species, though Quinn noticed Kritzk needed to activate an additional filter on his breathing apparatus. The air smelled like overripe fruit mixed with burnt electronics. Not pleasant, but tolerable. Professor Vex'tor assembled the teams at the edge of what the locals euphemistically called the hunting grounds, a sprawling canyon with sparse vegetation and numerous caves dotting its walls. The Void Beast typically emerges at dusk to hunt, Vex'tor explained, checking readings on his wrist device. Each team has been assigned a different sector. You have exactly 4 standard hours to implement your containment strategies before extraction. Remember, observation only. No harm to the specimen. Teams dispersed quickly, eager to set up before darkness fell. Quinn, Lumi and Kritzk were assigned to a section of the canyon featuring a small water source, a potential attraction for the creature. Perfect, Quinn said, surveying the area. It'll come here to drink. Void beasts do not require conventional hydration, Kretska corrected, unfolding a portable scanner. They absorb moisture through specialized dermal patches. Still, Quinn replied, everything likes a good watering hole. Trust me. Lumi began setting up the minimal equipment they'd agreed upon. A basic perimeter alert system just outside the range of the beast's EMP field. Meanwhile, Quinn simply found a comfortable rock, sat down and began waiting. What are you doing? Lumi flashed colors indicating increasing stress. I'm observing, Quinn said. First rule of animal handling: understand before you engage. Kretska's mandibles twitched nervously. Our chance of success with this approach is approximately 0.037%. Better odds than I had asking Jodie Parker to prom, Quinn replied with a nostalgic smile, and she said yes. As dusk approached, distant sounds of chaos began echoing through the canyon. A loud explosion followed by cursing in at least 3 different languages suggested that one team's containment field had failed spectacularly. Moments later, a Nebulon student floated by at high speed, their gaseous form condensed into what could only be described as a terrified cloud. It's coming this way, they shouted as they passed. All our sensors are fried. Kritz immediately began chittering in panic, acid involuntarily dripping from his mandibles and sizzling against the rocky ground. We must retreat. Our preparations are insufficient. Quinn stood calmly. No, this is perfect. Just stay behind me, and keep quiet. The human has a death wish. Lumi flashed to Kritz, not bothering with the translator. The ground began to tremble slightly. Whatever was moving through the canyon was big, really big. Quinn reached into their pocket and pulled out the treats from earlier, small dehydrated cubes that smelled faintly of earth meat. What are those really made of? Lumi asked, curiosity momentarily overriding fear. Mostly chicken, some beef liver, a bit of salmon oil, high-value rewards for difficult cases. You brought earth meat to an alien planet. Kritzk's voice rose to a pitch that threatened to crack his translator. The cross-contamination potential. Relax, they're irradiated and sealed. Perfectly safe. Further discussion was cut short by a deep reverberating growl that seemed to come from everywhere at once. The water in the small pool vibrated. Pebbles skittered across the ground, and then they saw it. The void beast was magnificent. Standing nearly 4 meters tall at the shoulder, its body was a shifting mass of what appeared to be dark matter interspersed with bioluminescent veins that pulsed with deep purple light. 6 limbs moved with surprising grace for a creature of its size, and multiple eyes. Quinn counted at least 8, swiveled independently, taking in every detail of the surroundings. Its maw, when opened slightly to taste the air, revealed row upon row of crystalline teeth that seemed to absorb rather than reflect light. In the distance, another explosion, followed by screams and the distinct sound of expensive equipment being trampled. That would be Gorgox's team, Quinn whispered. Bet they tried to trap it. The beast's head swung in their direction, all 8 eyes focusing with terrifying precision. It sniffed the air, a deep inhalation that seemed to suck the very atmosphere around them. It senses us, Kritsk whispered, frozen in place. Of course it does, Quinn replied. We're not exactly hiding. The void beast took one thunderous step forward, then another. The ground shook with each movement. It was clearly agitated, likely from the other team's attempts to capture it. Lumi's glow had dimmed to the barest minimum, an instinctive reaction to extreme stress. What do we do now? Her translator barely whispered. Quinn watched the creature carefully, noting how its front limbs pawed at the ground, how its breathing seemed slightly elevated, how its eyes dilated against the fading light. Now, Quinn said with surprising confidence, we wait for it to calm down. And so they did, watching as the most feared predator on Nexus-9 approached their position with deliberate, ground-shaking steps. The void beast continued its approach, each step deliberately placed as if it were stalking prey, which, Quinn realized with a small thrill of adrenaline, it probably was. The creature's multiple eyes never left them, and its skin rippled with waves of dark matter that seemed to absorb the fading light around them. Quinn Lumi flickered weakly. Please tell me you have an actual plan. I do, Quinn replied, voice steady despite the thundering heartbeat in their chest. Stay absolutely still. The beast was now less than 20 meters away, close enough that they could see individual scales, if that's what they were, shifting and realigning with each breath the creature took. Close enough to smell its strange, ozone-like scent. If we survive, Kritsk whispered, I will never mock humans again. Quinn took a slow, deliberate breath. Okay, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to approach it. Alone. What? Both Lumi and Kritsk reacted simultaneously. Lumi with a shocked flash of bright yellow and Kritsk with a spray of acid that narrowly missed Quinn's boot. Shh, Quinn hissed. Look, I've been watching it. It's curious, not just aggressive. All the other teams tried to trap or contain it. Nobody's tried to communicate. Communicate? With that? Kritsk's antennae were vibrating so fast they were nearly invisible. It's not sentient. It's a predatory beast. So are tigers, and people train those. Quinn replied, already slowly rising to their feet. Just trust me. Before either alien could protest further, Quinn began walking forward, moving with the same slow, deliberate pace the beast had used. Not rushing, not threatening, just approaching. The Void Beast's head tilted slightly, a gesture so unexpectedly dog-like that Quinn had to suppress a smile. Its front limbs shifted, claws extending into the rocky ground. The bioluminescent veins pulsed faster. In the distance, Professor Vex'tor's voice could be heard over the emergency channel. Team 8, report. We're detecting significant Void Beast activity in your sector. Crooks fumbled with their communicator. Professor Human Quinn is approaching the specimen directly. Request immediate extraction. What? The professor's voice cracked with alarm. Matthews, stand down immediately. That's an order. Quinn, now less than 10 meters from the beast, carefully removed their communicator and placed it on the ground. The beast's eyes tracked the movement, multiple pupils dilating with interest. Hey there, Quinn said softly, keeping their voice low and calm. You've had a rough day, haven't you? All these aliens trying to trap you in weird gadgets. The beast growled, a sound so deep it seemed to vibrate through Quinn's bones rather than travel through the air. I know, very frustrating, but I'm not here to trap you. Quinn slowly reached into their pocket and withdrew one of the treats. The beast's nostrils flared, all 8 eyes now focused on Quinn's hand. I brought you something, a peace offering. From their hiding spot, Lumi and Krext watched in horror as Quinn extended a hand toward the most dangerous creature on the planet. Krext had already composed a mental obituary for the human, while Lumi was calculating the fastest escape route back to the transport. The beast lowered its massive head, bringing it almost level with Quinn. Its jaw opened slightly, revealing those light-absorbing teeth up close. Quinn showed no fear, holding the treat on an open palm. It's okay, Quinn said gently. I'm not going to hurt you. And then, to the absolute astonishment of everyone watching, the Void Beast carefully extended a tentacle-like appendage that neither Lumi nor Krext had even noticed it possessed. The thin, almost translucent limb delicately plucked the treat from Quinn's hand and brought it to the creature's mouth. The beast made a sound then, not a growl, but something higher, almost a chirp. It sounded pleased. Good, right, Quinn said, smiling. I figured you'd like the protein. Your muscle mass suggests a high-protein diet. The beast made the chirping sound again, and then, in a movement that caused Lumi to emit a flash of light so bright it momentarily lit up the entire canyon, the creature lowered its massive body to the ground in front of Quinn. It was sitting, much like a giant, interdimensional dog might sit. Quinn's smile widened. See? Not so scary after all. Slowly, carefully, Quinn raised a hand and with what Krextik could only describe as insane courage, placed it on the beast's head. The creature's eyes half closed, and a low rumbling sound, almost like a purr, emanated from its massive chest. Professor, Krext said weakly into the communicator, you're going to want to see this. Professor Vex'tor arrived at the scene accompanied by what appeared to be half the class, all keeping a safe distance that Quinn was now completely ignoring. The human was sitting cross-legged on the ground, the Void Beast curled around them like some enormous physics-defying cat, its multiple eyes half closed in what could only be described as contentment. Impossible, Vex'tor muttered, his mandibles clicking so rapidly they were nearly a blur. Simply impossible. Quinn looked up with a casual smile. Hey Professor, want to meet Twitch? Twitch? Lumi flashed from her hiding spot. Yeah, see how the dark matter on his skin ripples? Reminds me of muscle twitches. Seemed fitting. The beast, now apparently named Twitch, made that strange chirping sound again, as Quinn scratched behind what appeared to be an ear-like sensory organ. Human Matthews, Professor Vex'tor said slowly, You realize you've just done what no xenobiologist has managed in 70 years of study. I have. The Void Beast has never been documented exhibiting non-aggressive behavior toward any species. Ever. The professor was frantically recording everything with his wrist device. How? How did you accomplish this? Quinn shrugged. I just paid attention. Everyone was so busy trying to trap or contain it that nobody bothered to just watch. Explain, Vex'tor demanded, his academic curiosity now fully engaged. Quinn gestured toward the beast's massive form. See those bioluminescent veins? They pulse faster when it's agitated. And the way it moves? Classic predator body language. But defensive, not aggressive. It was scared, not hunting. Gorgox, whose exoskeleton was now significantly more dented than it had been earlier, pushed forward. Scared? It destroyed our quantum field, and threw me 50 meters. Because you threatened it. Quinn replied simply. You tried to trap it. Of course it defended itself. Twitch made a low rumbling sound that caused several students to step back in alarm. Quinn just laughed. He's hungry again. Anyone else bring snacks? Vex'tor moved closer, his scientific curiosity overriding caution. And the treats? How did you know it would accept food? I didn't, Quinn admitted. But most predators are opportunistic feeders. I figured high-protein food would at least get its attention. After that, it was just about body language. Lumi had finally worked up the courage to edge closer, her color patterns shifting through shades of amazement and scientific curiosity. Your posture, she flashed. You never showed fear. Exactly. Quinn nodded. Otto. No sudden movements. No running. No aggression. I made myself boring, then interesting, then trustworthy. The beast. Twitch suddenly raised its head, all 8 eyes focusing on something in the distance. Quinn placed a calming hand on what appeared to be its shoulder. It's okay, big guy. Just more students. Twitch settled back down, the dark matter of its skin rippling contentedly. The purring sound resumed. This challenges everything we know about xenobiology, Vex'tor said, his voice filled with academic excitement. The Void Beast has always been classified as a Class 4 predator with no social behaviors. Well, that's your first mistake, Quinn replied, scratching Twitch behind its ear-like appendage. You're treating it like a specimen, not an individual. The professor's compound eyes widened slightly. Explain. You called it the Void Beast, or the specimen, but it's not a thing. It's a being. It has preferences, personality, needs. It's an individual. Like Quinn naming it Twitch, Krext observed, having finally approached from his hiding spot. Personification. No, Quinn corrected. Recognition. I'm not pretending it's a person. I'm acknowledging it's a someone, not a something, as if to emphasize the point. Twitch nudged Quinn's hand, clearly requesting more scratches. Quinn obliged, and the creature's purring intensified. I have to document this, Vex'tor said, his academic excitement now fully engaged. Human Matthews, you've revolutionized our understanding of interspecies interaction. Quinn grinned. Nah, I just remembered what my grandmother always said. Be kind first, ask questions later. Works on most species. As the stunned class watched, Quinn stood up and Twitch, defying all known behaviors of the species, rose with them. Quinn placed a gentle hand on the creature's side. So, Professor, about that assignment, I think we've contained the Void Beast for more than 10 minutes now. Do we pass?